What's good? What's good, everybody? Oh man, what's good? What's good? YouTube actually fucking notified me. Good shit. What's good, Eli? Dang, Jason, free Jason. I'm glad you're still alive. Yeah, we still here, man. We still here. We still pushing through. I thought, we just pushing through. We just pushing through. Nah. We not going nowhere. We not going nowhere. Oh man. Hey, I will say, I know this was like yesterday and like, was it the day before? I hope everybody's okay. Anybody that's dealing with all the fucking the smoke from the forest fires in Canada or whatever. Anybody that's doing that, I hope everybody's okay. Hope everybody's all good. What's good, man? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? You like them? They're fire. They're fire, bro. They even the watch got the ice. You feel me? Even the watch got even the watch look icy. You feel me? Oh man, listen. This is what we're gonna do today, and y'all let me know what y'all think. I've been really feeling like we need to do like some of the real deep dive breakdowns into some of these trades. I know we've done a lot of all-time conversations the last couple months, a lot of free throw merchant or a lot of these hot topics, right? We tried to hit a lot of these hot topics that have been going on in the NBA. And I'll be honest with you guys. I've been trying to figure out how I feel about this Lamelo Ball trade to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I'll be honest with you guys. I genuinely don't have an answer. So I think this is a good opportunity for us as a group to try to figure this out together, because it's a very confusing deal. It's a very there's a lot of things about it that I think can go both ways. There's good, there's bad, and everything in between. So I think we do like a OG episode, a deep dive. We're gonna go through a lot of film. It's a lot of nerdy basketball shit that we're gonna be talking about today. That's my vibe. Let me know if you guys are down. But that's the vibe that I've been feeling on for today, and I think it'll be a good way for us to actually have a good conversation about some of these trades, and not just, oh, it is a fit or it isn't a fit, or can they coexist, can they not coexist. Like we'll try to cover all the bases on today's episode. I'm not gonna lie, fuck Canada, why they always on fire, fuck my whole week up, haven't been able to fly or even do work at the house. That's tough, man. That's tough, man. I mean, and there's some people, just speaking on that really quickly, there's some people that think it's okay to just be outside and to just have like their normal day, with the particles and the pollution. You can go on your weather app and look at it. It's really bad out there. So if it looks or smells crazy in your city, try to stay indoors. But let's dive right into it. So let's start from the beginning, right? Let's start from the beginning. This is what I'll do. I'll pull up the Minnesota Timberwolves roster. But first we'll go through the deals that they've gone, that they've done. And we'll go from there. How's everybody doing, man? How's everybody doing? Everybody good? Everybody's good? This is going to be a locked-in episode, man. This is going to be a lock-in episode right here. All right. We got to go all the way to the motherfucking bottom. Now, people around, I felt like I fell out my. I was about to fall out. I had to run my car to Honda. They made a quick stop at. Well, I don't know what that is. And the man fell out because of the smoke. Yeah, it's bad, man. It's bad. Everybody stay safe. Everybody stay the fuck indoors. Um. Yeah, man. Stay indoors, please, please. All right. I want to go back to the original deal that happened. Because before the Lamelo deal, they had made another deal as well, too, right? It was even before Giannis. All right, so here it is. And correct me if I'm mistaken here, but this started with Minnesota sending Julius Randle and the 28th pick in the draft to the Brooklyn Nets in a 3-team trade that sends Nick Claxton to Chicago, and the Timberwolves acquire Brooklyn's 33rd pick for Randle and the number 28 pick. And this was to create some cap space, which they then used to sign a 5-year, $122 million contract to Ayo DeSumo, with a player option in the 5th season. Obviously he was really big for them down the stretch. And this obviously now makes him a priority for the team, right? So we get rid of Julius Randle. We re-sign, we extend Ayo. And then after that, you get the big deal where the Charlotte Hornets traded LaMelo Ball and Josh Green to Minnesota for Naz Reid, 2033 unprotected first-round pick, 3 first-round pick swaps, which is 28, 29, 30, and 3 second-round picks, 29, 32, 33. What else did we get after that? I know Mike Conley signed an extension or signed a 1-year deal with the Boston Celtics, if I'm correct, if I'm not mistaken. So he signed a 1-year deal to the Boston Celtics. And so this is what their roster looks like presently constructed, right? Isaiah Evans, Trey Kaufman, Dante DiVincenzo, LaMelo Ball, Terrence Shannon Jr., Jaden McDaniels, Julian Phillips, Anthony Edwards, Joe Ingles, Bones Highland, Josh Green, Ayo DeSumo, Zion Pullen, Joan Beringer, Jalen Clark, Enrique Freeman, Rudy Gobert, Trey Lyles, and Rocco Zikarsky. Obviously, a majority of these guys will not be getting any consistent minutes, but that is their roster as we speak today. And if it looks like they got a lot of guards, it's because they do. Like, everyone on this team, outside of 1, 2, 3 players, is 6'9" and under. Every single player on this roster, outside of 3 players, which is Joan Beringer, Rudy Gobert, and Rocco Zikarsky, every single player on this roster is under 6'9". And so let's start with the positives, right? Let's start with the positives. Let's start with the positives. You know, the first thing is, if you watch the Minnesota Timberwolves last year, Jaylen Clark's going to have a big year. I mean, they're going to need a big year from somebody. You know, something that the Boston Celtics really, not the Boston Celtics, sorry, the Minnesota Timberwolves struggled with was creating offense last year. If Anthony Edwards wasn't the one initiating, creating a shot, forcing a double team to happen, they really didn't have an offense. It was very stagnant. The ball would kind of just get swung around the perimeter, and then they would either take a bad shot. Someone would set like a rip screen for Dante or something like that. Julius Randle would take a bad shot. It was a number of those scenarios, right? And you know, I think the first thing when it comes to the Minnesota Timberwolves is LaMelo Ball will obviously help in that department, right? He's going to be able to create some offense that's outside of Anthony Edwards, right? So I think that's probably the main thing. You get a playmaker, you get a shot creator, someone that could do it on their own, right? And he's 6'6". He's not one of these 6'2" point guards that we have. So that's really the first thing, right? In theory, it should be able to free up Anthony Edwards a little bit, right? In theory, that's what you would kind of hope for, that it's gonna free up Anthony Edwards, give him some more room to operate, and kind of open the game up for him. The issue with this is, this is probably a good part to bring this up. The issue with this particular move is turnovers, right?
I just don't really appreciate his toughness. That's when you knew this.
I mean, this is just unforced error. 36-32 with 8 minutes left in the game. You have Naz Reid on you.
Really tough.
And this is one of those decisions. Not only did he step out of bounds, he was fully looking for that shot. When you see in this situation, you know, you have a Rudy Gobert that's here. Maybe you want to try to attack Naz Reid a little bit, but he settles for this three. So
it's really tough.
Y'all don't even want to know it's for dessert. My night can't get any better. Jason on live as I eat my chicken Alfredo and drink my orange juice, cherry ginger ale, grenadine. Hey, that sounds like a vibe. That sounds like a whole vibe.
And then afterwards,
but this is part of it, right? This a part of
12.
And this is also another unforced error. This doesn't get tipped. He just throws it away.
Has had a 90% free throw percentage in 12.
And you know, maybe this is a nitpick right here, right? Maybe this is a nitpick sliding out. I would have wished he kind of made a move to get over here instead of going into more traffic, because clearly the setup wasn't a double pick, right? It'd be one thing if they were kind of setting up for this double pick. He could get over here, try to make a play, force Rudy Gobert and Ayo to kind of do something over here, but he opted for this and throws the basketball away. And that's what makes this hard, right? You know, if you guys have watched me before, then you guys know I'm a big believer in players are who they are, right? Someone like who is it? Is it Brook? It's Brook that became a three-point shooter, right? You know, someone like Brook Lopez, who came into the NBA as a pure post-up center, you know, turned himself into a stretch big, or even, you know, I feel like Anthony Edwards doesn't get enough credit for the way his game is expanded. And you know, there are other players as well, too. But it's pretty rare, right? It's pretty rare to see players completely transform their game, right? For the most part, when players come in, there's things that they do well, there's things that they don't do well, but there's a style of play that players play with. And you try to control some of that to an extent, but for the most part, that kind of carries with them. I think Steph Curry is another great example of this, where Steph Curry is an unbelievable basketball player, one of the best players ever. He's always had an issue with turnovers. And it's honestly the irony in this conversation and bring him up. It's this pass, right? We've seen Steph throw the ball away, throwing this pass on a lot of situations. And it's one of those things where if you're a coach, if you're a team, you know who you're bringing in, right? So if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves, you're getting LaMelo Ball. If the expectation is he's going to be this low turnover, high efficient point guard, then you guys completely fucked up. Because he's not going to all of a sudden change 20 plus years of habits, right? And the other part in it too, some of the crazy shots, some of the crazy plays, the things that he's going to try that other players will not try, that's part of what makes him so good. And so you are always playing this game of, we want to limit the turnovers, we want to limit the bad shots, but we also don't want to change this player from who they are and what's made them successful, right? Because part of the reason why you would be bringing in LaMelo Ball is the playmaking, the shot making that comes with turnovers and some bad shots. And so you get that part, right? Kind of like with the Indiana Pacers and the way that they lost Miles Turner. I don't think they'll realize how important Naz Reid was to this team, right? Naz Reid was their stretch four. He was a floor spacer. He can drive and make some plays. Not that that was his primary skill and talent. Julius Randle's the same thing. Julius Randle's not a three-point shooter, but he steps out and takes threes. He tries to make plays. You know, these are two guys that are attempting to space the basketball floor, right? And so you get a situation right here like this, for example, right? And Randall forces the drive. Again, like we said, a big that can make plays on the perimeter. He forces this drive. Naz Reid gets the spot up right here, right? And granted, the ball doesn't go to him, but you'll see Miles Bridges turn around, and he's stuck right here, right? Because you want to go help out this because there's a box out for a potential offensive rebound. But now, you know, you could potentially open up this three, which this ball should have gone to Naz Reid. This, on two occasions in this possession, the ball should have gone to Naz Reid. But I think that's something that they're going to severely miss when it comes to driving the basketball and creating driving opportunities. Is going to be a little bit harder when there's less space on the floor because you don't have bigs that could space it, right? So I think that's something that they need to address. Sliding Jaden McDaniels to the power forward position, in my opinion, is not the solution. And so, you know, I think that's a massive part of this equation that no one's really talking about. I agree. I think it's going to be a dice roll. I think the supporting cast will decide how successful they are, except the two they are. I expect the two stars to be good. You can't replace Big Jelly. You know, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing, Elijah. What is this? Why is my chat not popping up? My biggest thing with this is should they have interest in Precious Achua? Kaminga seems like a no-go for Mini. Honestly, I think it does the same thing, right? It creates, you bring in another big that isn't really creating any offense and isn't really stretching the floor. And so, no. Where is this, bro? Where is this? Why is this not here? All right. I'll have to fix this later. I don't know why. I don't know why my thing is the chat's not popping up. I don't know why my chat's not popping up. Let's see. Okay. Let me try this one thing. Oh shit, there it is. All right. Chat's back, baby. All right. So yeah, my biggest thing is you're adding obviously playmaking, shot creation, to try to relieve a little bit of pressure off of Anthony Edwards, but you're also losing size and bigs that could stretch the floor, which is obviously really important in the modern NBA, right? So that's number one. And you know, what's, to me the question is how big of an impact do you think LaMelo Ball will have, considering the fact that you're taking away two bigs that can make a play, right? Julius Randle can, you know, isolate the basketball and do a bunch of things. Granted, as good as I think Julius Randle looks at times, ends the season off at about 20-7, right? He's not the most unbelievable basketball player in terms of production. We'll talk about Bam Adebayo in a second, but kind of similar in that sense where, you know, at times these guys could look like really good individual one-on-one players that could be useful for a team, but especially in Julius Randle's case, can be extremely stagnant, isn't very consistent. When Randle is attacking and he's able to make plays and create openings for other players, the Timberwolves have looked really good this year. When he's not, and he's not hitting shots, you know, they've looked really bad. But again, I would imagine the floor is going to be a little bit more crowded. Now, the other question that I have is, how many years ago, and you guys help me answer this, right? How many years has it been since the Minnesota Timberwolves were considered a lockdown defensive team? It's been like a good 2-3 years. Am I wrong? It's been like a good 2 years ever since the Timberwolves were this lockdown defensive team, one of the best defensive teams in the league. You know, losing Nickeil Alexander-Walker has something to do with that. You know, Mike Conley getting older in age. Anthony Edwards assuming more responsibility on the offensive end. I think all of those things have a little bit to do with that. But that's what makes this trade even more confusing to me, because you're adding a player that's giving you nothing on defense. Again, we always go back to Steph Curry when it comes to just trying to be at the right place at the right time. You don't have to be Draymond Green on defense, but you know, this is the question mark, right? This is what they're gonna have to answer moving forward. Julius Randle may be the worst passer, big name in NBA, dead. Joel can be rough too. Yep, 2 years since lockdown. They used to be long in lockdown, but they getting away from it. And you know, that's kind of what I'm getting at right here. Let's take a look at this really quickly. Io's on him. He's trailing him. Gets a dribble handoff. And this is what LaMelo can do for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's see what Minnesota could have done a little bit differently right here. Oh, no, this is Bones Highland on him. Sorry. Absolutely no help coming from anywhere. He's able to play one-on-one basketball right here. You know, this would be a long three for Brandon Miller. You could try to get out and contest him. Io could have been a little bit closer to the nail to try to prevent this. But he's able to get this for free. Sets him up. Bones Highland has no center of gravity. Completely off.
Highland takes him inside, scoops
and he just fries him.
A 35-point. Ball left alone.
And this is just terrible defense. I mean, this is in transition. There's 20 seconds left on the shot clock. And Randall just completely concedes this. Granted, I assume they're playing drop, pick, and roll coverage at this moment. Not even a real contest over here. It's so late. Just a team that's not locked in defensively, not connected on a string the way we've seen the Thunder, the Spurs, and the Knicks on our championship run, right? Where you just see a connected team on defense. So I really worry about, I really worry about how this is going to affect them, having LaMelo Ball on the team. None of these dudes can guard me. I mean, it is, and we've talked about how hard it is to defend in today's NBA, but this team at times has looked really poor on defense, and I think that's something we've talked a lot about towards the end of this NBA season. I think identities are kind of forgotten in a lot of situations, right? The teams that have a clear identity, those teams end up being better in the long run, right? Because they know what they can depend on, they know what they can rely on, versus the teams that don't have that. Now, I give him clamps, by the way. You guys let me know if you guys agree with this next point, because personally, we've talked about what LaMelo Ball does well and what he doesn't do well. We've talked about what they've lost with their size and their skill at the bigs. I think ironically enough, the person that this will impact the most is Anthony Edwards. And what I mean by that is this. You're going to have to give some grace to LaMelo Ball, right? His play style is his play style. He's going to have some bad turnovers. He's going to have some bad shot selections. It's a part of his game. I think this forces and puts a lot more pressure on Anthony Edwards to be a more efficient player because, one, his game is way more polished than LaMelo. His outside game, his mid-range game, getting to the basket, finishing, way more polished. He's probably the second best guard in the NBA. And so having a player that's kind of a firecracker, right, when it comes to LaMelo Ball, it's going to put a lot more pressure on Anthony Edwards to make less mistakes. He can't have those turnovers, the lazy turnovers, the frustrated turnovers. He can't settle for as many bad shots. Like, I think this is all going to fall on his shoulders to be the one that's damn near perfect. And it might lead to some disagreements. It might lead to some difficult conversations because that's a tough position to be in as a star player. A lot is already expected out of you. To now expect you to also be the one that plays damn near perfect, I think is going to be hard. We'll see if he's going to step up to it. I think this is another big year in the Anthony Edwards story because he had the big season last year in terms of, for the first time, he kind of turned into the villain, right? He was getting ridiculed for all the three-point shots and he can't get it done and da-da-da-da-da. They fell short. Now they got to trade. You know, it in a way kind of buys him time because he gets to have the excuse of, oh, I keep having different teams, different guys next to me and blah, 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 blah. I think it's all going to ultimately fall on his shoulders. So let me know what you guys think of that. Put the camera on him, the one in the hoodie hiding. I gave him 30. Yeah, over 30 shooting. Oh my God, I love the banter. Yeah, this team is looking rough, man. This team is looking a little rough. It's a lot of guards. I don't think they'll be able to have the defensive backbone. Oh, here's the other part. I think the Rudy Gobert, I think it's over. You know, and it's funny. You know, a part of me not saying anything for the last week, and this would go really hard if I had, you know, hundreds of thousands of people listening to me. But sometimes when you're right, you just gotta stay silent and just let it sit. And for the better part of the last week, I feel like I've been right. It was, let me find this video. Let me find this video. Excuse me. Let me find this video. This is an old video too. Anthony Edwards. Where is this? Look, bro, I have to scroll so far down just to see this. Here you go. Was it 2 years ago? It was roughly 2 years ago. And what I said 2 years ago was this, right? Anthony Edwards needs to leave Minnesota. I said it 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I said Anthony Edwards needs to leave the Minnesota Timberwolves. And what has happened since then? They've lost the defensive identity, right? They've lost that identity of being a defensive basketball team. They've traded Karl Anthony Towns for their next star, who is Julius Randle, and now they've traded Julius Randle, and now they have LaMelo Ball. And at what point, if you're Anthony Edwards, do you say, we're not going anywhere? I think they had pieces that were key to a championship, right? I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I mean, it's easy to say it now, but I think he should have always been a pivotal piece to their roster. They could have copied the Oklahoma City Thunder and tried to shift Anthony Edwards into that point guard position. Have Nickeil Alexander-Walker at the 2, Jaden McDaniels at the 3, and try to figure out someone else other than Karl Anthony Towns or Julius Randle. And they didn't do any of that. And now they're in this spot where you kind of have to see how things go, when the reality is I don't love this combination. I don't. I truly don't love this combination of players when it comes to Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball and just the overall makeup of this team. I don't know. I think he does some positive things for them. Also, the big question mark is health. Will he be healthy? Right? That's another big question mark. Anthony Edwards missed the 65 games also this past season, right? So definitely some really, really big question marks when it comes to the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's why I was so confused by all this, because I genuinely, I don't know. I just didn't like it. I think a part of me was trying to like the trade because I think LaMelo Ball is a great personality. I think he shows flashes of being a very good basketball player. But it's just not doing it for me. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I want to be excited about it, but I have to agree with you. Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to describe this, right? Like, we want to be excited for this. I don't know. Maybe I'm part of that group that just, I like watching LaMelo Ball play. I think it's exciting. I think if you're his coach or if you're a fan of his in terms of his team, right? He'll make you pull your hair out, but then at the next possession, he'll also do something that makes you scream and yell at the TV in a good way. So I don't know. I think it puts a lot more pressure on Anthony Edwards. The part I really don't like is Charlotte. Why the fuck would you trade your 2 best guys? Because they don't give a fuck. They don't give a flying fuck over here, man. Can we actually can we switch gears here? Because this is another one that's really confusing to me. And another thing that I was right about. We've talked about this a lot this year. And again, sometimes when you're right, you just gotta let it marinate. You just gotta let it sit. And granted, like I said, this would go hard if there was a million people in here that had heard all of this and gets to see this now. But to all the people that called me toxic in my comments, to all the people that called me stupid, to all the people that thought I was bugging for constantly calling out this situation in Boston, how fucking dumb do y'all feel now? How dumb do y'all feel now? Mind you, and again, we got to keep going back to it. This was 2 months ago. I told y'all the truth about the Boston Celtics 2 months ago. In the middle of this Jaylen Brown MVP run, they might make a run this year. Jayson Tatum is coming back. I told y'all the problems. I try to be the messenger, right? I can't force you to want this information, but I'm just here to give you the information. Listen, it's not that I don't like these players. I actually like Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. I think they're both unbelievable players. I even said, for their sake, they should stay together. Because you can go through the whole league. You're not going to find another Jayson Tatum and another Jaylen Brown, and they were on the same fucking team. But guess what? And this is to the people that, this to all the people that didn't want to listen, right? All of you guys should go take a psychology class or speak to a therapist or do something that lets you interact with being a real human being, right? Because anyone watching this situation, at least for me, could see what was happening. This has nothing to do with whether or not they like each other. This has nothing to do with whether or not they're friends. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has everything to do with, you have two competitors. There are some scenarios, right, where you take the Oklahoma City Thunder situation, for example. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the undisputed best player on that team, the MVP. It doesn't matter how important Jalen Williams is. It doesn't matter how good he is, even though I think he is a huge reason as to why they won. You could tell by their dynamic, there is not a part of Jalen Williams that thinks he's better than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And so there's never this struggle. Over in Boston, it was never that. You had one person who, by numbers wise, was the best player on the team. You had another player that thought he was even better than him and then proceeded to win the finals MVP and had this unbelievable MVP season this year, right? MVP level season. Jaylen Brown went on to say this was his favorite year. Jayson Tatum said he's not coming back to be a role player. And then the hype train behind Jaylen Brown's MVP run kind of ended when Jayson Tatum came back. And you could pretend like none of that stuff happened. You could pretend like, as a human being, none of those things are supposed to impact you. And I'm talking about the both of them. I'm not just talking about Jaylen Brown. Like, these things impact Jayson Tatum too. Clearly, the motherfucker sat during the Olympics, right? Like, Jaylen Brown didn't get invited, which was one thing. This person got invited, and then they told him to sit on the bench in front of the whole world, right? So they've both dealt with their fair share of shit on in this scenario. And so this isn't a surprise to anybody. And then when we heard the news that Boston was potentially shopping Jaylen Brown to Giannis, this was over. And Jason, be on it. Jason cooking there. Jason, don't touch grass. He said, go take a psychology gas. I'm screaming. I'll put dirt in your eye. So this wasn't a surprise to me. We'll get to the team in just 1 second. The only thing that kind of annoyed me about this situation is we can all agree that Jaylen Brown is smart, right? From whatever metric you want to use. I think Jaylen Brown is very smart. And I get it. He's on stream. Maybe he's just making a bigger deal out of it. You know, they got me up out of there. He has his line that he's been using, and maybe he's just farming impressions or whatever, right? But the thing that bothers me is you can't be surprised about this if you're Jaylen Brown. You're too smart to be surprised about this. You've been on live talking about everything. And he's been very candid, which is great for us. But you got to imagine the people that pay you might have an issue with some of the things that you're saying. And so that's my only thing when it comes to this. Like, he said a lot. And if you're Jaylen Brown, like, I'm big on accountability, right? Like real accountability, not the accountability we see on the internet where people say they're taking accountability. No, like real accountability, meaning you actually identify the things that you did in a situation to put you in the spot that you're in. And I think if Jaylen Brown was being completely honest with himself, then he would understand and realize the role that he played in this. Whether he got treated right or not doesn't mean he can't take accountability from this. I think he got treated like shit. I think they treated him like shit. I don't think they pushed him enough in terms of the MVP voting this season. I genuinely believe that. There was this big push behind Jason Tatum coming back. There wasn't a big enough push behind Jaylen Brown being MVP. That's a real thing. He said some stuff about it, and now those guys that pay your salary had an issue. And that's kind of how it shook out. But don't be surprised as to how or why we got here. And again, maybe he's just doing it for internet and to go viral or whatever. But that's the only thing that I personally found a little odd. Like, you can't be surprised as to why they feel like this about you. I mean, you've said a lot about this whole situation, and here we are. Yeah, stop the podcast. They don't help. He called Scotty retarded. To be honest, if I'm Jaylen, I'm fed up and speaking out about it too. Finals MVP candidate. And my name's being shopped every year. Hell yeah, I'm speaking about it. No, that's fine. That's fine, Eli. What I'm saying is you can't do that and not expect your team to potentially do something. I get you had the right to speak out on it. That's one thing, right? Like one of my biggest things as an adult nowadays is like, people think there's no consequences. There's like this weird thing with you know, this generation of the internet that feels like they can say and do whatever without consequences. And for the Boston Celtics is the same thing. You guys have treated this guy however you guys have treated. These are the consequences. And the same thing goes for Jaylen Brown, right? Like, they've done you wrong. You speak about it. There are consequences to that. You didn't want to politic. You didn't want to, like, you didn't want to lay down or bend the knee. However you want to describe it, there are consequences to that. That's just the reality. And I think this is just their situation. Scotty put bro in a basket. Why do you need to talk about it publicly, though? I mean, there's the string of going back to Jaylen Brown saying he doesn't think Bronny's a pro and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Like, again, let's not act like he hasn't spoken out on a lot of different topics that people could feel a way about. So that's first and foremost. For the Celtics side, their team is weird. I mean, I'm just going to keep it a buck. Mitchell Robinson, ended up going to the enemy, but depending on how that contract was really broken down, I can't really be mad at him ultimately, but whatever. The funny thing in all of this, right, when it comes to this Boston Celtics situation is, excuse me, I think there's a good chance Jayson Tatum is in the MVP run next year. And it's going to be even worse for Jaylen Brown, because if he's even remotely in the conversation, talking about Tatum, if Jayson Tatum is even remotely in that conversation, and he probably will be, Derek White is still a good basketball player. Peyton Pritchard is still a good basketball player. But there's no one there that's going to take the basketball out of his hands. And so when it comes to next season, unfortunately for Jaylen Brown, and this would piss me off too if I'm him, I'm being honest, there is going to be a serious push. If Tatum is in the neighborhood of 38-8, watch the push for him to be MVP next season. And don't be surprised if he is. Watch the push. It'll validate a lot of what Jaylen Brown has said. It'll validate why he's upset. All of that stuff is gonna be true, but it's gonna look crazy. It's gonna look crazy. What's today? The 17th. Remember, I said this. If Jayson Tatum is anywhere near that MVP conversation, they are going to push the fuck out of him. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jaylen Brown says something. I said it here first. Jaylen Brown fanned out with the Bronny comment. I don't get how JT get coin allegations, but JB isn't. As a Philly guy, PG is a non-factor, and they lost a top 15 player. I don't have high hopes for Boston, to be honest. This is not, I mean, we said the same thing about Boston last year. And they're getting back a guy that was averaging 28, 7, and 7 with Jaylen Brown on the team. And I get it. I get it. To a lot of people, I've sounded like a Jayson Tatum fan for the last couple of years. I just call things how I see them, and that's just how I see it. I mean, you're giving a guy that's averaged 37 and 6 or whatever more opportunities to score and pass and rebound and do all that shit. More than likely, he's going to be in the MVP conversation. He's going to put up fucking Luka Doncic numbers, like, realistically. If they're even like third in the East, he's going to be in the convo for sure. If he's averaging 30 plus, 8 and 8, and they're third in the East, he's going to be in the conversation 100%. Now, let's pull up. Here, this is what I want to do. I want to pull up the Boston Celtics. Let's look at their schedule. Let's look towards the end of the year. Oh yeah, they fucking choked. All right. All right. Let's look here and see Is Embiid in this? Let's see right here. All right. So, how do you guys feel about Jaylen Brown joining Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and VJ Edgecombe? My initial thoughts, right, when I heard this and when I see this, and this probably this will probably sound crazy to some folks. Probably not to y'all. Especially not to Elijah. The person that ruins this little thing between Jaylen Brown, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and VJ Edgecombe is Joel Embiid. And a huge part of that is health, right? You don't know how much he's going to play, when he's going to play, how healthy he's going to be, right? And the issue with that is he demands so much attention, right? Like, however you feel about Joel Embiid, right? Whether you like him or not, when he's on the floor and he's even 80 to 90% healthy, he demands the basketball because he's a constant mismatch. He forces double teams. Like he does a lot of things positive for you on a basketball court, right? The real issue is just health. And when he plays, it naturally creates a slower paced game, which goes against the strength of Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, and Jaylen Brown. You have two guards and a wing, or a guard also, whatever you want to consider Jaylen Brown. You have three guys that are trying to get downhill, want to run in transition, and get to the basket. And now you have to slow those three players down because you got this one guy that's just like you. He has to lead the charge. Like trading Tyrese and VJ legit guard duo for many years, and they just got one option. I've been telling Elijah they need to trade Joel for 5 years. Like, picture like this, right? It's as if like Joel is like the Rolls Royce, right? He's like the Rolls Royce. Let's say you and the squad, right? Rolls Royce, there's a Lamborghini, there's a Ferrari, and then there's like a GTR, right? VJ's the GTR, fucking Maxey's the Lamborghini, Jaylen Brown's the Ferrari, Joel Embiid is the Rolls Royce, right? All of them are great cars, all of them are whatever, but you got to roll as a squad. And so when you got to roll as a squad, naturally the Rolls Royce got to be up front. I mean, the Rolls Royce, that's like some presidential shit. You big balling, you not even driving your whip, right? But the Rolls Royce guy is probably going to want to go slow. The other three want to fly down the highway, right? The other three trying to cut up on the highway. And the Rolls Royce is like, no. We got to stick together. Y'all got to stay behind me. But like, I'm going to go the speed limit. You got three cats that want to go 120 on the highway. And I think that's the situation that you're in right now. Or like, have you guys ever seen a NASCAR when you got to follow that front car for a lap, right? When there's like whatever. Like, they all just stuck there following behind Joel Embiid instead of flying, right? Healthy Joel Embiid, this is all totally different, but he's holding back these three players, or he's going to hold back these three players who want to fly, right? It's preventing this Philadelphia 76ers team, and we keep talking about identity. It's preventing them from building, molding this defensive team identity. Because imagine this team was all about defense. Tyrese Maxey has shown some flashes, even though, you know, he could be a little, he could be more disciplined on defense. VJ has shown an ability to defend. Jaylen Brown obviously is one of the best defenders in the league. Like, all of a sudden you have a 1, 2, and 3 that could defend, and you could start building this identity of defense. We're going to get out in the fast break. Oh, and then when you stop us at half court, Tyrese Maxey and Jaylen Brown can create. Like, the way I visualize those three, this could work. Like, this could work. But Joel Embiid is kind of holding them back. At this point, Joel has more value as a trade asset than a fit on the floor with that team. And the weird thing for me, Eli, his trade value is probably as high as it's been in the last couple of years, because he was great in the playoffs. Like, he was great in the playoffs. And so if there was a time to trade him, it probably would have been right now. But now they're kind of just stuck here, and it's got to be annoying for a player, right? Like, 1 second you're playing your game, you guys have this system that you guys are building with Joel Embiid out, and then he comes in and we're walking the ball up. Now we got to post the, like, because realistically, right? And we'll pull this up real quick.
31 minutes.
There's no defense for this, right?
George and Embiid, little two-man game.
Like, there's just, I mean, there's just no defense for this, right? If you can guarantee we have a 100% Joel Embiid that could do this, he can hit the mid-range shot, he could step out, he can make plays, like, cool. You wouldn't have needed Jaylen Brown. But now they're just in this weird spot where, you know, I think this team has a hard time building an identity because they don't know if they want to be a half-court team, a transition team, a defensive team. Like, they just don't know what they want to be, and I think that makes it really hard. I just know Golden State will trade Yaxel for Embiid. They hate their young guys. They do. They actually do. They actually hate their young guys. I'm just going through this. What is this game 4 in the Philly Boston series? Just trying to see what Philly's offense can kind of look like. And the other part in this too, you know, they got Paul George, who's also a bit of a half-court player at this point in his career, right? Paul George wants to set up and get to his spots. He wants to take his mid-range, his step backs. He's not really a downhill player, not the way that Jaylen Brown is. And so, you know, you got two players in Tyrese Maxey and Jaylen Brown who are trying to get to the basket, right? These two guys, I gave Tyrese Maxey a lot of credit last season because there's times where he looks absolutely unstoppable. You know, it would be a nightmare to have to guard that man, especially when he throws the ball at Joel Embiid and he's sprinting at him, right? Those are the worst situations to be in as a defense, to have to deal with, you know, Maxey's speed. And now you're adding another 30-point per game scorer next to him that can get it on his own or whatever. Now, the question for this, and you guys let me know what you think, because I know some people hate the 1A, 1B, option 1, option 2 conversations. But I think Tyrese Maxey's a 1. I think he's a number 1 option. I think he's your offense, right? He's your point of attack guy. That obviously changes, right? Jaylen Brown was a legitimate MVP candidate, finals MVP, all of these things that would say Jaylen Brown's got to get 20 shots a game, right? I'm curious how that's going to... Is that going to slow down VJ Edgecombe's development, right? Tyrese Maxey's development. Excuse me. And so just some question marks. Just some question marks that you got to have, because like I said, in a perfect world, none of these things matter, right? In a perfect world, no one cares about who gets the shots, none of these things. But in reality, I mean, we just saw the breakup in Boston. This was a part of it. And now he's in this other situation where you have two guys. Like Edgecombe clearly thinks he can be a top player in the NBA. I think Tyrese Maxey also thinks he can be a top player in the NBA. It's just one of those things. They should decide who 1 and 2 are, but I think they need to play and decide who it is. I agree with you to an extent, Elijah. But I also think that's what training camp is for, and maybe we're talking about the same thing, right? You want to go into a season, and I've never been an NBA player. I'm not a pro, but I would imagine you would want to go into an NBA season having an idea as to what you guys are going to do as a team, right? Maybe it shifts during the year, and you know, great teams are able to do that and adapt. But Tyrese Maxey can touch the paint damn near every possession. I think Jaylen Brown has shown that he can obviously lead a team to one of the best records in a conference. What the fuck just happened to my thing? He can obviously lead a team to one of the best records in the NBA. But you know, leads you to ask, like, what are you gonna kind of value in that situation, right? Are you gonna value the guy that's kind of been there, kind of done it, or are you gonna value the guy who's shown that he can be a real problem consistently? And I think that's a question that Philly's gonna have to answer. I think naturally it'll be Jaylen, Maxey, VJ in that order. I don't see it hurting VJ. He will still have a big role to play in their success. I get that, Eli. Just on a selfish, like, individual, just to look at it a little selfishly and as an individual, right? We see this happen all the time, right? Players feel like they can do more, they're capable of doing more. They get put in a box because there's other players ahead of them that has to get shine and get opportunities, right? And there are times where that can really overshadow and hurt a player, right? It could force a player to not really expand their game, and you're more of a corner guy than anything. Some people get stuck in that, and there's some people who are able to grow out of that. I think that's something only VJ can answer. It's also on him if he starts busting people's ass, if he can climb out of that role a lot sooner. But again, kind of looking at this Celtic situation, like, this is a real thing. right? Like this is a real thing, right? We've seen it in a lot of scenarios. We've seen it in a lot of scenarios. James Harden didn't want to keep being the sixth man. He thought he was better than that. And I know money was a huge factor in it too, but he believed in himself and what he was capable of. We've seen it with Kobe and Shaq. Kyrie said this about LeBron being overshadowed, and Scottie Pippen with Jordan. And like, there are so many examples of this, right? We can keep going on and on and on, right? When guys feel like they're at the same level, you know, things like this happen, right? It's not like Clay and Steph Curry. Clay might have thought he was a better shooter than Steph. I don't think it was ever a situation where he was the better player or he thought he was the better player. I mean, he was the one that openly said to Paul George that he's never had to carry a franchise the way Paul George has, and he gives him a lot of credit for that, and da-da-da-da-da. Like, Clay understands who he is. There are some players that want and expect more. And it leads to butting heads at times. But we'll see. We'll see. I think at the end of it, Joel Embiid is out of Philadelphia. Is I think what this really signals to ultimately. If you are the 76ers, though, I think you would hope to do that sooner rather than later so that these guards can kind of figure out this situation. But yeah, man, I don't know. There's another trade that I don't absolutely love, and it's really all just because of Joel Embiid. All right, we're moving right along. We're doing pretty good here. We're moving right along. After the week, right? After it's been like a good week and change, I believe, right? How do you guys feel about the Giannis trade to the Miami Heat? Because this is another one that has consumed a lot of my brain. Trying to visualize and picture and imagine how this team will kind of look. Let's start with the good. So I'll pull up. Where is this? Let's pull up the Miami Heat roster. Where are they? All right. Where is this? Like, what the fuck is this? Why? Where is their, like, am I tripping? Where the fuck is their thing? Where the fuck is it? Bro, this team is trolling. All right, fucking hell, man. Like why was it so goddamn difficult? All right. So All right, so let's look at this. Their current roster, Simone Fontecchio, Davion Mitchell, Trevor Keels, Ryan Conwell, Nikola Jovic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Pelle Larson, Tim Hardaway Jr., Drew Smith, Bam Adebayo, Myron Gardner, Keyshawn Johnson, Jameer Young, Andrew Wiggins, Trey Donaldson, Vladislav Golden, and Bobby Portis Jr. I don't really like it. Everyone left because of it. I don't like it. They gutted their team. Giannis and Luka are also the biggest divas in the league. I would give James Harden a look if I'm Miami. So let's look at the good things first and foremost. Let's look at the good. I think it's very easy to look at the bad, so let's look at the good first. So the good, you're getting a player that's pretty much outside of last season where he only played 36 games, right? Giannis is pretty much good for 30-9, right? 30-9, one of the best players ever. Unbelievable downhill player, getting to the paint, taking up space, using his physicality and athleticism, right? Unbelievable. Can play a little point guard. He's more of a point forward, right? So all that's great. Bam Adebayo, I think has shown flashes of being one of the better players in the NBA. It's just that every time the season ends when it comes to Bam, he's sitting at like 18 and 20 a game. Even though when you watch him at times, you're like, this guy's a 25 point per game scorer. And he just always kind of ends up at like 18, 20, and like 8-9 rebounds. And so you got this unbelievable player in Giannis and another player that has shown some flashes, right? I think the one big issue is neither of them is a center. Right, neither of them are centers, right? You're talking about both power forwards, and Giannis, I think, is a small forward masquerading as a power forward in a center. That's what I truly believe. And so you guys are undersizing the big. It'll force them to have to defend a lot of, they're going to be on Wemby and all that stuff instead of having other players kind of deal with that. And so that's not great. There's not a lot of shooting on the team. I think Bobby Portis and Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to depend a lot on them being able to hit shots. If they're not hitting shots, it's going to be pretty rough for this team. Now, this roster is so mid, bro. They don't have Scotty Barnes. My biggest issue with this roster is you're dealing with a lot of what ifs, right? What if Giannis can come off of the basketball? What if Bam Adebayo can be a 24, 25 point per game scorer? He gives you the isolation, playmaking kind of situation, right? Those are big what ifs, and also the roster. I don't love this team. And I think the biggest question for me, if I'm Eric Spoelstra, and if you guys saw my YouTube short, you guys have already heard this. My angle would be defense. And I know we've talked a lot about defense today. I've mentioned it with pretty much every roster, right? I mean, there's only two sides of the basketball. There's offense and there's fucking defense, right? But with this team, my challenge to Giannis and Bam would be this. Can you guys lead the best defense in basketball? Can you guys be the catalysts to lead this basketball team to be the best defensive team in the NBA. And if you guys could do that, that's one. But two, can you guys both be defensive player of the year candidates? And some people might say that's asking a lot, or you're being delusional, and I get it. It's a fucking lot. But if these two guys can kind of lead this team in that direction, it creates less of a need for a point guard because you'll be in a lot of transition situations. You're going to force a lot of mismatches in transition, so you'll be able to create offense in the half court or in the fast break. It'll take the ball out of Giannis's hands, being the one-man show. I think watching Miami last year, they almost looked like a European team, the way they would kind of move the basketball. And so if they are heading in that direction, I think they can have some success. They could be potentially good. But again, it's a lot of big what ifs. Giannis has also missed a lot of time, especially at the end of these seasons. Some people think I'm being too hard on Bam. My response to them is Bam Adebayo has had a full NBA season, and May to, what was that? No, February to like April. February to about May to of the previous season to play without Jimmy Butler. My point is, there's been enough time to see if Bam Adebayo is a lead guy in the NBA. And I just personally don't think he is. If he was going to be a 25-11 guy, I think it would have shown already. I just don't think he's that type of player. So is he just going to be another role player on a Giannis team? Or are we going to see a different version of both of these players that we've never seen? Again, another big what if that I just don't think is going to happen. Davion will probably have his stock rise with attention this year. See, my thing about that is, like, he was playing really good ball, but you're bringing in a player like Giannis dominates the basketball, and rightfully so, right? He's a constant mismatch. He's getting to the rim. He's getting to the line. He's a dominant basketball player. That's going to take away from Davion Mitchell, unfortunately. Yeah, I just don't love this pairing, man. I don't love any of these pairings. I think, yep, Bam not a one. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. But it feels like a lot of these teams are almost trying to copy the Knicks. Because we had so much success going to a smaller lineup. We had the ability to run two bigs. But there was a lot of scenarios with Cat in foul trouble and so on and so forth where we had to go small. And it feels like a lot of teams are trying to copy that. And what I'll remind those guys is Jokic is still in the NBA. The Thunder still have two bigs. The Spurs, even though we beat them, can run bigs at you still. Like, this idea and this notion of everyone just needs to go small, I think is an overreaction. And I'm curious how this is going to affect a lot of these teams, because I think mid-season, there's going to be a scramble for 4s and 5s. I don't know what's going to happen in, like, I'd be trying to get Jared Allen out of Cleveland, and a whole bunch of other things. But I feel like there's a real serious trend to try to go with small ball basketball right now, and I think it's because of what we did in the finals. That's why I like what BI was doing last year. He brought into what Darko said: stars need to adjust, not come in and make a team cater. Yeah, but that's I get what you're saying, Elijah. And this is no disrespect to Brandon Ingram, but Brandon Ingram is not. He's just not Giannis or Jaylen Brown. He's just not these guys. In terms of how dominant he is to now have to concede, I agree. I think players do have to give, right? There's a level that you have to concede a little bit. I just don't know if he's at that level. I wouldn't consider him at that level to where, like, I'm not going to Giannis and say, hey, look, Brandon Ingram bought in. You got to do what Brandon Ingram did. Like, I think that's apples to oranges, in my opinion. And again, like the other part that we talked about earlier with LaMelo, like, for example, Giannis has always played on the ball. I don't think he's all of a sudden going to become a post-up slashing big. It's just not going to happen, right? You're getting the player that you're getting. I think oftentimes we see a lot of issues with trades is because of teams will get a player and now we need you to be somebody or not. Right? You get this purely offensive guy and you're getting on them saying, why aren't you playing defense like the motherfucker ever played defense? Like, that's just not how it works, unfortunately, right? Like, this is not 2K. I feel like there's some organizations and front offices that are fucking playing 2K. Like, they think you could bring somebody in and because they're an athletic offensive guy, you could turn them into a defensive guy. Like, that's just not how shit works. In theory, that sounds nice. In practice, that's not how it actually works. And so, again, Giannis is not going to all of a sudden become an off-ball player. Bam isn't all of a sudden going to become a 30-point per game isolation dominant player. It's just not going to happen. Can they concede? Can they buy into a system a little bit more? Yes, but ultimately they're going to have to mold the offense around these stars, and it just is what it is. I agree. BI isn't as good as Giannis or Luka, but ball stopping like it does only gets you so far. You saw Jason Tatum had to accept and make adjustments, and when he was willing to do less, they won. I don't know if you remember, Elijah. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if he was doing less. I mean, he was leading the team in points, rebounds, assists, minutes, and everything else you could think of, even on that finals run. The only reason his points were so low is because he was shooting so god awful. He was shooting like fucking like 27% from three. If he shot his average, one, he would have got finals MVP because he would have averaged 30 plus all the assists and rebounds that he was getting. My point is, I don't think he was doing less on purpose. He couldn't throw the ball in the ocean if he was at the beach. Like, that was just his reality. He had the worst stretch of shooting in his entire career. I think May and June, he shot terrible. I mean, we could go back and look at that really quick, but May and June was awful. Here, I'll take a look at this. Excuse me. Um, oh, here's the series. I was trying to find the series. Um, here you go. So this was the finals, right? This is the finals, which the Celtics obviously won 4-1. Tatum still shot 19.6 shots a game. Jaylen Brown shot 16.8. Tatum averaged 22.2. Jaylen Brown averaged 20.8. Assists 7.2, 7.8 rebounds, an abysmal 38.8% shooting from the field, 26.3% from three. Is there like advanced stats in this? Is there, let's see, is there like usage stats? I don't think they have usage. I don't think they have advanced stats in this. I would love to see their advanced stats. So what year was that? 24-25, right? He averaged 28, 42.3 from the field, 37.2 from three. This is the playoffs, right? Playoffs 24-25. When did they win? I just want to clarify this. This was 23-24 actually. So 23-24. He averaged 25, 42.7% shooting from the field, 28.3% from three, shot 19.6 shots a game, averaged 9.7 rebounds, 6.3 assists. Where is this advanced here? (23-24). Where is his usage? I'm trying to find his usage. (23-24). He was at 28% his usage rating. Which again, 30s is when you start to get really high in terms of usage. But again, I think his numbers, especially in the finals, looked that way because he was shooting so poorly. Because he was shooting so poorly. Now, does that mean that he didn't concede at all or do a little bit less and try to? I felt like in watching that, and I remember it from what I remember, he initiated everything. Especially down this stretch of games, down the stretch of quarters. It was a lot of high pick and roll with Derek White, or he would be the one setting the screen and then he would be posting up and he's either making a play from there or taking a shot. Like a lot of their offense was ran through him and he just shot really bad. Now, again, I agree with you. Like ball stopping and all of that stuff only gets you so far. You got to move the basketball. You got to make quick decisions. I get all that. Like, I get what you're saying. I just don't know if this is a good example of it. Is this finals run? I think it was more so just terrible shooting. But yeah, man. I don't know. I don't love this Miami trade. The more I think about it, I don't love it. The more I think about it, I don't love it. Do we even want to talk about Ja? Like, I swear. The way I look at this Ja Morant trade to Portland, it's like sending somebody to rehab. You know, he was on an interview talking about, I just want people to see I'm not a bad person, which is great. Hopefully he maximizes it and takes what he can from being around someone like a Damian Lillard, who's, you know, calm, cool, and collected. Again, he doesn't have to totally change who he is as a person. Just take a thing or two from him, learn a thing or two from him. But that situation in Portland just ultimately feels like you're sending somebody to rehab. I couldn't imagine. Me and Elijah think Portland could be dangerous. I'm just trying to picture Damian Lillard and John Morant in the backcourt. And it's great in the sense of one of them can attack the basket. You know, Dame is getting a little bit older, right? He's not attacking the basket like he used to. But Dame can shoot, right? Dame can shoot and Ja can't. And so in that aspect, I think it's good. But I don't love how they're gonna potentially look on defense. We gave LA a lot of shit for we gave LA a lot of shit for having 3 players that weren't very good defensively, right? John Morant's never been a defensive player. Damian Lillard, especially at this point in his career, coming off Achilles injury, is not going to be a defensive player. Denny Advia is absolutely not a defensive player. So you're thinking about 3 players on the floor that are basically only playing offense. I don't love the combination. I don't expect much from Dame, to be honest. It's going to be Ja, Drew, Denny leading. Dame off bench as a shooter. Defense. Yeah, these boys not playing defense. Here, we'll look at the roster. Jason Kent, Damian Lillard, Scoot Henderson, Blake Wesley, Chris Youngblood, Matisse Thybulle, Drew Holiday, Denny Advia, Micah Porter, Ja Morant, Brendan Carlson, Yang Henson, Shaedon Sharp, Donovan Klingon, Vit Krejci, Tumani Kamara, Robert Williams III, and Sidi Sissoko. I mean, Drew's 36. Dame is 36. I can't believe that Ja is only 26. I think the other part in this too is Ja is just not the player he was a couple years ago. I think injuries got a lot to do with it. Everything he's dealt with off the court has a lot to do with it. I don't love this roster. I just a lot of these trades, I don't think they're done making moves yet. Hopefully for these teams, I hope that they're not done making moves yet, because I don't love the makeup for a lot of these teams. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I do think if you set the culture, the rest can be decent. I mean, you know, Dame, Scoot, Denny, Ja, you know, these guys can be dangerous. I think, you know, Jeremy Grant was massive for them, has been massive for them, giving them size and athleticism. You obviously lose some of that. You'll see a resurgence from Ja. I truly believe that. I just never loved, like, you know, we were talking about Bam and Giannis kind of both being out of position. You're playing 2 forwards to be a forward and a center, and it's not like a Tim Duncan situation, right? you're playing a bunch of point guards together. And I just don't think it's going to work. They're going to be undersized. Defense is going to be a problem. I don't know how much you really want to expect out of a 36-year-old Drew Holiday at this point in his career. I don't know. I feel like here's the thing about these guys. If they start this season really bad, right? If they start the season really bad, I think it could be a really big problem. Because I would imagine Ja with this team, just coming from Memphis, if things aren't going well, I think he's gonna have a lot to say. It could cause some issues internally. I think they gotta start hot. I think they need to start hot. If not, we're gonna see some problem with this team. I was telling Eli some players need specific states to play, and Russ needs to be fiery. Lamelo needs to play free, in my opinion. John needs to have fun while playing, while he played good this season in Memphis. Wait, what did that say? I think he getting back to the gritty and the parade in cities will do a lot for him. I mean, we'll see. What I said from the beginning about this, and I kind of referred to it again. If I'm Ja, I'm kind of looking at this as a stop. Because I don't think this roster is built to support what Ja does well, right? Ja is primarily a pick and roll and an isolation type of point guard who's going to get to the basket, doesn't have a great three-point shot. He's going to manage the game as a point guard. He's more of a pure point guard than a lot of these other guards. Which means you're going to need a good big that can run pick and rolls with him. You need a big that can space the floor along with other shooters. But at the same time, and with that being said, I don't think they have the right pieces around him. So realistically, I think this is, like I said, like going to rehab. This is like sending Ja to rehab. He needs to work on himself as an individual. And if they're not building a team around him to be successful, if I'm him, I'm going to get the most out of the situation and try to move on into a different team in like a year or two, personally. And that's it. Ja OVO jersey would go triple platinum. Jamarian Sharp pick and roll. Nate Biddle, CMB spacing big. You've been trying to get Ja. You've been trying to get Ja. My only thing about him is it's in the bag, boys. My only thing with Ja, and you guys tell me if you agree or not. He's been in the NBA for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons at this point, right? And he was a really, really good player at one point. Obviously dealt with what he's dealt with. He's been in and out of lineups for a number of reasons. His jump shot has never gotten better. And, he's in season 7, about to be in season 8, year 8. I don't imagine it's going to get any better or that much better at this point. He's had some downtime. He's had some time out. Excuse me. I know he's had some shoulder injuries that he's dealt with, probably prevented him from shooting, but that's a real serious problem if he hasn't gotten better as a shooter up until this point. I'm curious how the back half of his career is going to go without developing that. Jason, I gotta ask, what work on himself does Ja really gotta do? Like, I'm a little miffed at all the negative talk the media got for Ja. I think he is fine. I've gone back and forth with Elijah on this a lot, right? We've had a lot of discussions on this. We'll start with the gun stuff, right? As a big name athlete who is, and the reality about John Morant, what made him so popular early on, the dancing, the gritty, it's a parade inside my city. Meanwhile, there was a parade inside my city. But he was a massive, massive figure to kids, right? And I think that's something that some people forget when it comes to the whole gun stuff, right? Like, he was a huge figure to kids. And so when that happened, and then it happened again, right? And then it happened again. To me, that shows someone that doesn't care, right? He doesn't understand the status that he was holding at that point, right? How big of a figure he was at that point. And even though I don't believe he's this bad, terrible person, when you're a multi-billion-dollar company that's trying to work with someone, and it's one thing to point guns on the basketball floor when you're hitting threes and doing all that stuff, because I know Elijah's brought up Anthony Edwards, and a lot of fucking players do it, right? Let's just call it what it is. But none of them have been caught with a gun in a spot they're not supposed to have it. And then after all of that, right? He's still doing gun gestures on the court. Still doing gun gestures at other players or whatever. The grenade, like, he's poking fun at the thing that he should have been taking seriously. Right? But like, what he did was own a gun, right? Did I miss something where he was extremely irresponsible with a gun? As far as I know, all he did was own one. No, he was on Instagram Live, like, dancing with the gun at the club. And then he did it again like 2 weeks later. And you know, you can call someone a narc for safety and whatever, like, but when you're a person of that stature, that's how you're supposed to treat that. You're supposed to be responsible. You can't be in a video dangling it around like you're holding a fucking toy. And then on top of that, there was the rumors of he was butting heads with Memphis Grizzlies head coach Tuomas Lisalo, right? Tuomas Lisalo, which he's kind of tanked. But he was apparently having issues with him when Lisalo was trying to implement this new offense, and Ja was fighting it because he wanted more isolations and more pick and rolls, really. He wanted the ball in his hand. He felt like they were taking the ball out of his hand. So apparently he had an issue with that. He's said stuff in public before. And so you take all of those things into account. Yes, he has some growing up to do. And what I've told Elijah, is it fair for this to follow him for the rest of his career? I don't think so, right? But if I told you you're a millionaire athlete, you're a star in the NBA, you have opportunities for all these endorsement deals to, you know, be more connected to the fan base, you know, when you get traded for teams to accept you, blah, 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 blah. If you're in that position and all you have to do is stop referencing guns, am I tripping or are you tripping for saying you don't want to do that? If all you have to do, and you can have fucking everything, is to stop referencing guns in your celebrations, in your interviews, when you're on Instagram Live, like, is that really so much to ask out of you? Like, to me, that's all it is. And a part of being accountable is, going back to accountability, right? Understanding your part in it and what you could do differently, right? Because what we got to realize as people, right? You can't really control how people look at you, right? You can only control the things that you do and the things that you can control. And as far as I see this, as an adult, as a grown man, Ja Morant is in full control of everything. In terms of not doing the gestures, not doing the celebrations, not talking about it, not doing it on Instagram Live. Now, if you think that that's his entire personality he's giving up by stopping that, I don't know what conversation you're trying to have with me. If that's who he is as a person and that's what you're arguing, we're not having the same conversation. And fairness or unfairness has nothing to do with this ultimately. He's a multi-million-dollar athlete and has to act a certain way. And it just is what it is. He served his punishment. That's where I'm trying to draw the line. Nobody wants to move on. I don't remember Ja doing anything crazy this year, but this is still the focus. He served this punishment. We all should move on as a community, but the majority will not. That's where I start to get annoyed too, Elijah, because as far as I know, he hasn't been causing any kind of noise. I'm back to watch multiple games this year. He wasn't even celebrating this year, just blackface after big majority of buckets. You mean like a blank face? I mean, like I said, I think a part of it was now there's the narrative of being a bad teammate and not being coachable, you know, with the thing with the roster. Like, listen, like, everybody got their cost they got to bear, right? Everybody got their thing that they got to bear. This is on Ja Morant, and I've told you guys before, he could either choose to keep doing some of the things that he's been doing, and maybe he hasn't been doing that much. But the reality is, anytime he does anything, even if they're months apart, it's gonna get criticized. It's gonna get put under a microscope. That's just how this works. But he's also afforded to be a millionaire athlete, right? Some random Joe Schmo, it's not gonna matter because you're not a millionaire athlete, and it comes with the territory. It just comes with the territory. I hope he does great. I hope he excels. I hope he has a great season. I hope he has a resurgence because, like I said, an NBA that has all of its stars healthy and playing well is a better NBA, right? That's ultimately what it comes down to. A league like that is a better league, and I think Ja is a part of that. If he's out there doing his thing, having fun, highlights, it adds to the league, right? It adds to the league. But yeah, man, that's my take on that situation. Do we have anything else we want to cover? Wow, we did a 2-hour stream today. Hell yeah, we did a 2-hour stream today. I think I'm ready to get up out of here. I'm hungry now. I need to go get some grub. We need to go eat. But yeah, and that's all it comes down to. Like, fair, unfair, like I feel like that's childish in the sense of, like, grow up and not reference some of that shit. Like, you can do that in order to maximize your opportunities and maximize your money. Like it just is what it is. Kind of like the same thing with like Jaylen Brown. This obviously isn't a direct parallel. But like he said, a lot of the things that he said, like, they come with consequences, and it just is what it is. Jermaine Sharp is going to dunk on Wemby this year off a Scotty lob. I hope so. Before you go, can I hear your thoughts on the Kawhi trade? You mean the unofficial trade? That's why I didn't even want to touch on it, because they're waiting until the investigation gets finalized. It's funny, you weren't here the last time, Eli, but Black Canadian was really excited about this shit. He was really, really excited. You're getting an older Kawhi Leonard. You're getting a Kawhi with more miles on him. I don't think it's a good deal. It completely shifts the direction they were going in. This free-flowing offense, everyone touches the basketball, to a guy who's an isolation-heavy player. Right? Kawhi is not a downhill player. He's not going to get to the rim every possession. He is a isolation-heavy, one-on-one basketball player. And I just feel like he could potentially take away from some of those guys. Now, the big part in this too is there's no guarantees with Kawhi, right? Like, if you were going to tell me Kawhi is going to play 75 games next season, he's going to be fully healthy, locked in, engaged. At times Kawhi looked like a top fucking 5-10 player in the NBA, right? Still. But one, that's not guaranteed, and two, he's just not the same player. And so I feel like it completely shifts this whole roster and what they're trying to do, what they've been building on in all of last season. Could they potentially mesh? There is a possibility. Scotty Barnes is kind of like the point guard. He can kind of take that away. RJ. I do think that there's potential. I just don't believe in it, is how I'll put it. I said he was going to come here and get hit with the recall. I'm dead. I've fucking been saying this. Everyone acting like I'm hating. He's going to score the shit out the ball, but it's looking shifty. Yeah, I don't love the deal. It screams a team. Like, how many situations does getting back with Joe X actually work? Like, how many times does that actually work? And that's what this is. Like, they had, like first of all, like Kawhi with his ex, they told him they would give him everything. They told him, you can. It's like the ex going to him and said, you can do whatever you want to me. whenever you want to me. And he said, nah, I'm good. He said, nah, I'm good. He said, nah, I'm good. How do you come back from that? How do you come back from that? As the ex that said, I'll let you do anything. You look nuts accepting that motherfucker again. That told you no. You look crazy. It looks crazy. And so when you look at it under that lens, it's like from the beginning, it's not a good fit. From the beginning, it's not a good fit. I don't know. While we at it, go get DeMar. Facts. DeMar is a weird situation. I'm not surprised because what did they do? I want to get correct. First of all, this is getting a little too personal. I got a few exes I may fold for. You better not fold, motherfucker. You better stand strong, 10 toes. You better not fold like a goddamn lawn chair. It's funny, and we'll touch on this and then we'll get going. First of all, DeMar getting waived is crazy. The more I say it, the less I like it. I'll never forget that line. But DeMar getting waived is crazy. Him still not getting picked up to me is not a surprise. Again, you're getting basically a less efficient Kawhi Leonard without the 3-ball. Like, that's essentially what you're getting with DeMar DeRozan. He's not a great 3-point shooter. He's isolation heavy. He's never really been like a playmaker, an offensive hub type of player. I'm struggling to find a clean fit for DeMar DeRozan because in pretty much any situation he's going to want the basketball, and he's a great one-on-one player, but compared to other players in the league, especially at this point, that might be a type of player and a style of play that I could go without if I'm a team really building to a championship. Especially we've seen how things have kind of shaken down in Sacramento. The Kings are a terrible organization, absolutely terrible organization. But they also chose a really poor collection of players. And I think they have a little bit to do with that also. So I don't know where this guy's going to end up going, man. Shout out Drake, man. DeMar and Kuminga, in my opinion, should wait on LeBron to move. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, I can't think of a team that could really use him. Like, I'm trying to think of what team could use a mid-post isolation player, and I can't think of one. I genuinely can't think of one. Yeah, like literally. Can you guys think of any? No, they got Paul George and Tatum. Like, where does a DeMar DeRozan even fit in? Cleveland, they re-signed Donovan Mitchell, and is James still there? Yeah, nothing in my opinion fits. Like, he can't go to Denver. My idea would be an 8 or 9 guy to come in and give scoring with bench unit. Yeah, but I don't think he's going for that. It was almost like a Melo situation, but he's not better than Melo, and he can't shoot the 3 like Melo. Like, at least Melo could spot up. James is unsigned. Yeah, I don't like that pairing in Cleveland. Donovan Mitchell and DeMar DeRozan, that just don't sound good. LA, absolutely not. Orlando, hell no. Minnesota, no. DeMar better than who? DeMar better than who? Detroit, no. Miami, no. Golden State, no. Yeah, no. He not good for them. Yeah, I can't think of a team. I can't think of a team. Genuinely cannot think of a team. Not DeMar better, except his role not better than a player. Yeah, I think it's cooked. I like truthfully cannot think of a team where he would actually fit at this point in time. And I think obviously it's too late for him to ever switch the way that he plays. So I guess Toronto is the only option. I don't know if you want him either, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I would not want him on my roster. I'm just gonna be so fucking honest with you. I would not want him on my roster. Yeah, it's cooked for bro. It's cooked for bro. He's not going nowhere. But yeah, man, that's gonna do it for me for today. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for coming in and hanging out on a 2-hour live stream today. This was fun, man. This is fun. Trying to get back in the swing of things, pumping out more content. It's just the summertime, you know. We're outside a little bit, you know. We kind of outside, but we're trying to pump out some more content. So make sure you watch out for the shorts. Watch out for the lives. But yeah, thank you guys, man. As always, leave a like, comment, and subscribe on the channel if you have not done so already. I appreciate you guys so much. Elijah, you are the GOAT. Eli, you are the GOAT. I know Bruce was in here earlier. Anybody else that popped in even for 2 seconds, I truly appreciate you guys. So thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys later. Y'all have a great weekend. Thank you guys. Y'all could have been anywhere on the internet, but y'all were here with me, so I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys here later. Y'all have a good weekend. Thank you. I'll see you later, man. Peace out. Peace out. Peace out. Peace out. Peace out. Peace out. Peace, guys.